Hello, everybody. My name's Tony Cardenas, and this is the Indy Real Estate Market Weekly Podcast. Today, we have a guest on the show, Mayor Scott Fadness of Fishers, Indiana. Shelly Walters on the show with FC.Tucker, and Justin Griffith with Keller Williams. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Doing good, Tony. How are you?
Good. Scott, thank you for coming on the show. We certainly appreciate it. I know you came over across the river today, as we were talking earlier, and we got a lot of questions about Fishers and the development of it. Shelly, how's it going?
It's doing great. Thank you. Also, thank you so much for coming. I know that you're very busy, and
Glad
we
to be
really
here.
just wanted to talk to you about some of the things you're seeing in Fishers in regards to real estate, especially the rental market.
Yeah, you know, you and I talked about this briefly the other day, and it's something that I kind of shone a light on. Maybe 6 months ago, we did a housing study, and one of the things that really popped out to us was this, the number of homes being purchased and rented out, and the people that were owning those homes, or the entities that were owning these homes, I should say, were from all over the country. These weren't Jim down the street renting out a home in his neighborhood. And as we started looking at it, we saw this national trend, and it got a lot of publicity to the point where I think we were on national news talking about this very issue. And, you know, from my perspective, it has two big problems. One, we're denying an entire generation the opportunity to own a home and build equity in that home. And you know, for a lot of folks, that was their life savings went into their home.
Absolutely.
You know, and then the second part of that is we do know statistically that a lot of times the rental homes, if they're not managed well or managed correctly, can lead to higher rates of code enforcement issues and higher rates of public safety issues. And so, you know, those two things brought an alarm to me about the sustainability of our city.
Okay, and you just mentioned something that I think people need to understand what you meant. When you're saying we are denying a whole generation housing, why would rentals or this situation be causing that? What do you mean by that?
Well, if you look back at the way the middle class has accrued wealth over the last probably 5 generations,
Absolutely.
The number one way that they accrued wealth is they bought a home in a community that was doing well, and they paid down their mortgage. Right. And at the end of it, they had an asset that they could either take into retirement or they would pass it down to the next generation. That's how most folks have garnered generational wealth. And now that we're denying folks the opportunity, because you guys are on the front lines, you see this every day, you know, a young couple who wants to go buy a home in a community that's doing well, they're getting beat out by Wall Street, frankly, time and time again. No inspection, cash offer, above list price. And so a lot of those folks, now they're forced to become the renter. They'll never get equity in that asset. They'll never accrue wealth that way. And I don't think that's good for the long-term viability of the middle class in America.
Right, and denies these people coming in, buying a home, even if they have to put 3.5% down FHA, build a family, get the community, and you know your neighbors. Your neighbors aren't moving in and out. The yards, the way they're being maintained, the house, the way they're being maintained. Right. There is no sweat equity in the house because they're just renters. Right. And then these rental companies, and that's what we're talking about right now. Right. We're not talking about the like your buddy's dad that bought 2 homes, made a little equity. The bottom line, these rental companies, they really don't care so much about the house and the yards, and it ruins it for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, you end up, that property becomes a list on an Excel sheet somewhere in Alabama or on Wall Street. And that's, again, I'm not anti-renter. I think, you know, we've built a lot of wonderful multifamily projects in Fishers, but those are centrally managed. They're around amenities, and they have the viability to be sustainable for the long term. That, I think, that's a smarter approach to kind of rental and multifamily living. The single family homes in these neighborhoods, and think about the person who bought their home, is taking care of it, and now all of a sudden their neighborhood is 35 to 40% rental. I mean, it's nuts. That's significant, right? And that's their life savings is in that home.
And so do you think that you're seeing 35 to 40% in some neighborhoods?
There are neighborhoods in Fishers that are north of 30% now rental, and the majority of those are coming from out-of-state firms that are buying those properties. And so where we enter into that is, as a city, you know, first of all, raising awareness, and one of the first lines of defense is your HOA, your homeowners association.
Absolutely.
They have covenants that they have the ability to restrict that, but there's challenges with that.
Absolutely.
The developers, when they build these developments, they put a very high threshold on your ability to change the covenants. You know, it could be 70 or 80%. Well, if that's the case, if anyone's ever tried to garner enough support in an HOA to do anything, it's very difficult. And so some of them have had a difficult time lowering that percentage threshold for rental. The other option they have is a cooling off period where you can buy the home, but you can't rent it for a period of 2 years.
Right.
That might cool it off as well. And so we as a city started contemplating, well, maybe we should look at an ordinance that says, we set a ceiling, so to speak. You can't go above this amount or this percentage of rentals in a neighborhood, just as a safety net to say.
I think that's absolutely fantastic.
And
So you're trying to help the HOAs to have the ability, because the homeowners show so much resistance to this. And when I see that, I don't think the homeowners understand why the resistance should not be there.
Actually, from my perspective, most of the HOAs, it's not that they're resistant, they're apathetic. They don't, you can't get more than 7 people to show up to an HOA meeting. So if you want to go get 70% of them to vote on something, it's very, very difficult. We actually found, we had an HOA workshop in Fishers where we brought residents in to learn about this. We had probably 40 or 50 HOA presidents that are trying to learn how to make these changes. And a lot of them have done that. But I think as a city, we owe it to the residents to provide a backstop that says, if an HOA wants to be more restrictive, that's fine. But at the very least, we're not going to allow a scenario where your neighborhood transitions into something very different than what you invested in. That's our goal.
Right. And a lot of these new developments today they're rewriting the HOA for these developments. And it's not like they wrote them 25, 35 years ago, because they never had this in their rear view mirror of what was coming ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, excuse me, in the windshield. Yeah. Now that we're looking at it more in the rear view mirror. Excuse me, I had to straighten that out. But the bottom line is, I'm not going to say where I live, but we're strict, okay? And the bottom line is, if you do a VRBO in our neighborhood, or you have a situation, I'm telling you what, our association is all over it.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the way they have to write these things in order to live in a new development.
And you have to protect the asset.
You have to protect the asset and your people and everything.
And I don't think that's one of the things I think is, we can talk about what you're trying to do and what the HOAs are trying to do, but why? And I think that's where we come in as real estate agents, is what we see. There's so many reasons why this is not a bad idea. And, I think people want to fight against it if they, like you said, they're apathetic or whatever, but they don't understand the hit they're going to take on these assets.
They need to fight for it. And I'm telling you, a lot of people don't like HOAs. And this is one of the great things about them. If they dig deep and write these rules and regulations in the HOA and stand strong on it.
Well, there's a difference between short-term thinking and long-term thinking. And, for the short-term thinker, they think, well, I want to sell this home that I listed today, and I know that there's 5 corporations that'll come buy it. That's a short-term thought process, because
Absolutely.
the long-term, if you're going to be a realtor in this community for 20 years or 30 years, you want to be able to resell that home multiple times in a vibrant neighborhood where that asset's actually appreciated. I don't believe, if we continue on this path, that a lot of these neighborhoods will be a great place to sell a home 10, 15, 20 years from now, if we're going down this path. So I think as an industry, I'm not in your industry, but if I were, the long-term strategic play here is to maintain the vibrancy and the viability of these neighborhoods, not go for the short-term win of flipping this house immediately to a rental.
Okay.
Well, I will say, as a real estate agent, there are certain neighborhoods in Fishers, Carmel, Westfield, Noblesville that we will talk to our buyers about, that for them to move into as their primary home is not even a house we'll show.
Well, here's another subject that I'd like to touch on. Your redevelopment over in Fishers is just on fire.
Yeah,
okay,
it does look great.
And it looks great. I mean,
Thank you.
It is just awesome. And when you have these new developments coming in, it's a place you want to live. You want to grow your family. You want to go to the Hamilton Southeastern schools and everything. The bottom line is the redevelopment. I mean, you got so much going on.
Well, it's been exciting, and I think there's a couple of fundamentals that I'm really excited about. It's one thing to build a lot of mixed-use development, and we're all in that game, and that's kind of that sense of place. But what's really intriguing to me right now is the amount of jobs that we're bringing into Fishers, high-paying jobs in the life science industry. We've had almost $1 billion of new investment in life sciences in our community, as well as the tech sector. We had a big announcement today of a gentleman who started a tech company and just sold it for a significant sum. And those good paying jobs are going to fuel the opportunity and the demand for housing. And then if you layer on top of that the quality of life investments we're making, it's a dynamic time for our city. And I think you see that in the home values. I mean, they continue to, I know nationally home values are up, but it's amazing when I talk to folks, even in the older part of Fishers, in a home that I would have thought, 7 to 10 years ago, maybe $175,000 to $200,000 home. Now they're $300,000 and $325,000.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's incredible.
And you're lucky if you can get them for $300,000 to $325,000.
And what I'm most excited about that is that you guys are selling these to young couples who are saying, you know what, we're gonna buy that home and we're gonna put another $30,000 or $40,000. We're gonna invest in that home and we're gonna make it something more than what it is today.
Right, and then you got five or six houses down the street, and you got that one rental property or two of them that just screw up the whole neighborhood.
Right.
Going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
But the bottom line is your redevelopment. To get Top Golf. Okay, to get 1933, to get the St. Elmo's brands over there, it's just unbelievable. I know so many people on the north side of Indianapolis, and Anderson and Pendleton that drive all the way over there for a weekend.
Yeah, the yard or the district.
Yeah,
I always call it the yard, but it's the district. That development, we really felt like culinary. People wanted great places to go out to eat. They wanted great restaurants. So we partnered with Thompson Thrift to build that. And the community and the region has received and welcomed that development. I think it exceeded any of our expectations, and just how well and how much people like it. And then, south of that now with the arena we're building, and we're going to have a massive announcement tomorrow about a retailer that's probably one of the best retailers in the country.
We can't break that.
We can't break that.
Can't break it here, but tomorrow morning
it's
going to be fun.
That's fun.
So it's just more energy. There's something palpable about the energy in Fishers right now, which is really fun to be a part of.
So that gets back to, we have so many families that want to live there, and some of these issues with rental, more major corporations coming in and buying them. The other part of that is I think that we see that the people who own those properties are not invested into the community as well. They are absentee, and they could be from a different country as well. So they don't even have anything to do with the city.
Well, absolutely. I think there are people that rent that are good, hardworking people like anyone else. My personal opinion is that when you own the asset and you live in Alabama, or you live in New York, or you live out of the country, as you said, you're just not likely to care as much about the issues or be as responsive. And you certainly, to your point, you're not going to be at an HOA meeting saying, boy, we should really fix that playground.
Right.
Boy, we should really take care of that eyesore over there. It's these HOAs and just people's ownership. I had this older woman, she hounded me for the better part of a year to get a speed limit sign in her neighborhood. And she finally got it. And she wrote me an email yesterday and thanked me for it. And I had to respond to her and tell her it's the persistence of individuals like you who call that neighborhood home, who are staunch advocates for it, that make all the difference in the world to the viability of our community. So, this is about more than just dollars and cents. It is about a sense of community and making sure that we're viable for the long term. And, Tony Katz, popular conservative radio host, he had me on about this issue, and he said, well, how do you balance a person's right to make as much money as they want when they sell their property? And my answer to that was, that is kind of what government does. From time to time, we step in and we make a policy decision that's it's for the betterment of the whole, not the individual. And by the way, if we said no to a corporation, you guys would fill that house with someone. And my guess is it would be a family that wants to call that home, put money into that asset, and be a part of the community. And I'll choose that.
Justin, we run into that every day. We
day.
can't get the houses for our people who are trying to get in under $400,000. It right now is almost impossible. And when that is allowed, I will say I've had sellers, when I sit down with my sellers and they are in a neighborhood that can be rented, I do have a conversation with them.
That's great.
I say to them, do you realize we can get multiple offers on your property, maybe some sight unseen offers, and it's going to be cash? Do you want to sell to somebody who wants to live in this home and have a home for their family? Or do you also want to make sure that your neighborhood and your friends that you've probably lived next door to for 10 years do not have a rental come in next to them that's going to start to fall apart and then destroy their property values? And I will tell you, after I have that conversation, we hardly ever have a seller sell to a
That's awesome.
corporation.
That's great to hear. I'm glad
Like
you're having
you
those
said,
discussions.
because they are going to get a offer.
Oh yeah.
Do you
for
want to
sure.
choose a family or do you want to choose a corporation? And after that conversation, if more people maybe would even have that conversation with their seller, like you said, realtors stepping in and saying what this is doing to the community, that is something that a seller starts to go, oh, okay.
Right, and
I want a
sometimes,
family.
and that's if the corporation is given, let's just make this easy, $10,000 more, you might see the family come up or the seller be a little bit more lenient to the family that wants to buy the house. You know, maybe they'll pay another $10,000.
I would just say that most of the sellers that I ever work with, everybody's a human and they want to help others.
Right.
And that's how you help others.
Well, and I think we mentioned this before we started today. I think it's only going to get worse.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
With the current environment we find ourselves in, just this last December, I think Fisher's only had 2 single-family home permits pulled for new construction. We're seeing slower volumes than we've seen since the housing recession. So what you're going to see is a pent-up demand.
Sure.
Those prices are going to continue to go up, and with interest rates the way they are, the average young couple or family that wants to come be a part of Fisher's, Carmel, Westfield, Noblesville, it's becoming more and more difficult. Meanwhile, Wall Street's going to look at that and say, this is a pent-up demand. It's going to be sustainable. I can generate large rental revenues, get good returns, and they have cash. So they're going to continue to come in here and hammer away at us. And this is something that we're going to – drafting a policy like this is pretty complicated, has a lot of legal ramifications. So we've been working a lot on that over the last 4 to 6 months. But I do think if Fisher's leads the way on this – I think there's a number of other communities that are watching.
Sure.
And we'll probably follow suit if we move forward. And my guess is I will not be getting a gift basket from the corporate rental folks, but that's okay.
I mean, who cares, right? At the end of the day.
Well,
Are
my
you,
responsibility is community, not
when
the
do you think
corporation.
you'll be putting this in front of the council?
It's probably in the next 90 to 120 days would be my guess.
How does the council seem to be on this?
They're open to it. You know, they're getting some pushback from people who own rentals.
Of course.
You know, the hard part on the policy is we say we're after the folks that are out of state, but we can't discriminate in that regard. It has to be a policy that addresses everyone. And so if you're the guy that owns 4 homes, you know, you're affected in your ability to go buy your 5th one if we cap it in certain neighborhoods. So you have your local guys saying, well, I'm a good operator. I'm not doing anything wrong. Why am I getting thrown in with everybody else? That's the way public policy works, is you have to think through, and you can't discriminate against one group or another. So that there again, why we have to think through how we raise the cap or put a backstop, and then allow the HOAs to do the work that they need to do.
Right. Well, Justin, he started a website called Fishers.realestate. That's the new URLs now that are out there. And, you know, him just developing that website has to have some of this information on it that could obviously get him people that will read these issues to say, hey, you know, this was what's going on. You know what I mean? Because people need to know about this. And following the city council of, I follow the city council here in Carmel.
Yep.
I'm invested in it. Okay, I live here. But following the city council and what you guys are doing, that is a big investment of time, but also you can get involved because you got to go to the meetings. And you said earlier about the lady that had this, that finally got her sign. She was persistent, and you need more of them.
Yeah, engagement is critical. In today's world, I know everyone's busy and there's information overload, but being informed, being engaged, being thoughtful, bringing solutions to the table, and bringing a perspective that's different. I get paid for a living to advocate on behalf of the city. So it never means quite as much as it does from the resident who stands up and says, this is why it's important to me.
Exactly.
And so I think you're spot on in that staying engaged is so vitally important.
And leaving out next door as your sounding board.
Yeah, leaving out next door. And some of the social media pages, like, you know, I'm involved in social media pages. I understand the backlash. I understand the negativity, but there's a lot of positivity on them too. Okay. And it depends on how you address it and how you get it out
Just
there.
don't read the comments. You know, that's my goal in life.
You know, honestly, we have some social media pages here in Carmel, and we got them set up. If the comments are very, very rude, very, very negative, they're out. Because we're okay to hear your side of the story, but we're only going to hear it in a certain tone that people can work off of.
And I think that's very important in this discussion, because I would never want to be in a scenario or characterized that this policy is discriminating against people because
Right.
we're stereotyping who a renter is.
Right.
That is not what we're discussing here. This is about the viability long term of our
Every one
city.
of us probably in here rented
Exactly.
a home.
Well,
I
that-
did
yeah.
apartment
That's
before we bought our
exactly-
first home.
I did want to say that because I think it's kind of been brought up a few times.
Yeah.
The way you've said it is, it's definitely not the renters we are talking about or the rental community that needs to rent. This is about the possibility of an issue happening with viable housing market in the future.
I agree. Yeah. Long term, what is best, what's most viable. And then, look, Carmel, as I walked in here today, lots of rental all around us. There's a way to do it that actually ensures the viability of the rental property long term when you put it in a rich, walkable area. And when you put it, by rich, I mean amenity rich. You
Right.
have trails, you have green space, you have the opportunity to engage with retail. That is where time and time again, historically, rental properties have maintained their value.
Right.
When you stick them in the middle of nowhere, they don't maintain their value.
Absolutely
And
not.
I will also say that when I see the renters who are using these rental properties from these major corporations, they don't get a lot of really good service or help when things are happening. So the other situation that happens is these renters who do get to finally rent a home because they're available are renting from corporations that are non-existent in our area, non-responsive, and they do not do things for them like the mom and pops.
Yeah,
so the mom and
absolutely.
pops we love because they are more hands-on.
What
with
happens
these
when your
families.
water heater goes out, right?
Yeah.
They have a
Absolutely.
1-800 number for
Right.
you to call? Or,
Yeah,
Right.
and it's very hard to get that done.
Let me ask this question on your market in the condominium market. I mean, ours is blowing up here. Okay. I mean, I'm going to do a list on condominiums next Wednesday. I just got it from our redevelopment division here for Carmel. Your condo market is, I mean,
It's starting. We're a little behind where Carmel is, but Tony
Right.
Berkla is doing a development right on the Nickel Plate Trail in downtown Fishers. Really neat project. I think it's like 45 or 50
what are those
condos.
going to start at? Do you know?
They're north of 6 and will run to $1 million, I
Isn't
believe.
that unbelievable?
But you know what? And I'm sure you're seeing this in
Location.
Carmel. The phenomenon that we find is that we have all these folks who own, 7,000 to 10,000 square foot homes.
Yeah.
Their kids are all gone.
They're done.
And they're saying, we want to live in a nice place, but we also want to go to Arizona. We want to go to Florida.
Right.
And so I think it's fueling this condo surge. I don't think it's necessarily the 24-year-old or the 27-year-old.
No, it's the guy that's 55 to 65 years old. He's lived in XYZ
Yep.
out in Hamilton proper.
Yes,
I'm selling my home, but
exactly.
I want to stay here in the summer with
Right.
my grandkids, and they're going to Florida or, like you said, Arizona
Yeah.
or somewhere else.
Yep.
and the walkability that you've provided is awesome.
Exactly. And they have something that's so valuable. Two things, really. They have discretionary time and money. And so why I think these condos are great for a downtown walkable place like Carmel or what we're doing at Fishers is it helps support the local ecosystem of
Absolutely.
restaurants and bars and things of that nature. Because the 40-year-old with 3 little kids, they don't have the time or the money to go hang out on a Thursday night and have dinner. But a 67-year-old who's empty nester, they do. And I think that can help support the ecosystem. And Fishers and Carmel, we were so young for so long. This is kind of a new phenomenon for us, but we're excited about it. And I think you'll see more condos on the market in Fishers, even announced probably in the next 60 to 90 days.
Well, let me tell you something. When Lennar was building off of 116th Street, just going west of the Nickel Plate.
Yeah.
Okay. And the prices they were asking, I said, these guys don't got a chance. Then I look within 6 months and they're sold out almost.
I know.
I'm like, what? I thought, what is changing here?
Yeah.
And it's the part of life people are getting rid of their bigger homes, or it's the new home buyer coming in for the first round.
Right.
And those were a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
Every one of those people that bought one of those, they've had to make $150,000 on them.
Yeah.
Double.
Well, you and I both know. I was talking to a young person that works for me the other day. She's in her late 20s, and she still rents, but she rents in a very nice apartment. She's got a boyfriend who rents a very nice apartment. And I was asking her, if you get married and you get a starter home, like in your mind, what does a starter home run? And she was like, probably 350 to 425.
Isn't that unbelievable?
I mean, when we were growing up, a starter home would not be in but she's also going to be in her early 30s.
Yeah.
She's also been trained. She's been paying basically the equivalent of a mortgage
Right.
every month for her apartment. So they're just in the starter home starts later, and they're just at a different point in their career and in their families than we were when we were.
Yeah, my starter home was $151,000. And I'm going to tell you something. After I closed and went, man, did I bite off too much?
I hear you.
You know what I mean? Because, I don't even want to look up.
So anything else fun coming up that you have to break here?
I would tell you that this year is going to be such a transformative year for our city. When you think about Michael Andretti building his global headquarters,
saw that.
I don't know that people really understand the size and magnitude of that project. It's 635,000 square feet. It's got a museum, an Italian restaurant, and it's going to transform that 96th Street corridor. It's the type of project we've been waiting for to do on that airport property. And then all the life science companies coming to be, and then we're breaking ground Friday on our arena.
Right.
And that will include about $500 million of additional.
What's the name of the arena, please?
We call it the Fisher's Event Center right now because frankly, we're out shopping for a sponsor to name it. So it's been kind of generic to date. But Thompson Thrift did such a great job, as we mentioned earlier, about the district, and there's just gonna be more of that and more announcements.
Those are two major, huge developments.
Yeah, these are things that most cities would do once every 50 years.
How many years will it take to build out Andretti's?
They'll be open by the end of next year, I believe. And our arena, believe it or not, will be open by November of next year.
Wow.
That's awesome.
How are you doing it?
I don't know. I don't sleep.
You guys got the beach project too?
Yeah, we got a Geist Waterfront.
Yeah.
That opens this spring as well. That's a great
That'd be
park.
exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Then you have all those new homes being built right there on the water. Kind of the last section of Geist to be built, right?
Yeah, I thought Oleo Road was the last section, and it's not. When they had the Rose Garden out there where Reggie Miller used to live.
Yep.
It's amazing to see the new homes that are being built on Geist, and then how much those lots went for is extraordinary too. So it's an exciting time to be in Fishers.
Oleo Road used to be so out in the boondocks. I lived in Fishers when it was a town of 3,000. I'm not going to date myself or anything, but you didn't have anything. You had a McDonald's, and that was it. And
my first boat dock out there was $375 a year with Ken Duckmore. I said, Ken, you're ripping me off. He says, and that was a lot of money back
It's
then.
appreciated a bit.
Yeah, that's right. That was, a long, long time ago. Well, hey, any more questions for the mayor?
I don't know. Anything else you
No,
have?
Thanks for having me over.
Oh, man, I
appreciate
got to
it.
tell you something. We would love to have you on the show again. This is a wealth of information.
Anytime.
And we're going to get this podcast out to everybody so they can learn more about Fishers and the opportunity to live there, have a family there, and all the
or bring a corporation
Well,
there.
I appreciate it, and I better get out of here before Brainerd finds out I'm in Carmel.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you, Scott Fadness, for being on the show. We're back for the second half of the show. Thank you to Mayor Scott Fadness for coming on the show today, telling us about his city and how he sees the future of Fishers. And now we're going to talk about the stats, and we're going to kick it off with Shelly Walters and then Justin Griffith. Shelly, let's kick off Fishers, Indiana, and tell me what's going on in the last 7 days, and let's talk about what's selling and how short we are on inventory.
Okay, so Fishers, the last 7 days, 36 hit the market. 19 of those immediately pended, and 6 of those were new builds. And currently active in Fishers is 108. 26 of those are new builds. And what we're really looking at here, in the past 30 days, 111 homes have sold in Fishers, but only 36 hit the market. So we're starting to see more houses. I mean, we've been saying this forever, but there are so many more houses selling than are hitting the market. So inventory is still very tight. In the days on market in the past 30 days, the average was 47. In the past 7 days, the average is 24. So the sales are starting to come in much faster. And the median days on market was 15 for the past 30 days. It's currently in Fishers 5. So we are seeing a huge speed up in houses going off the market in Fishers. In Noblesville, 29 hit the market. 15 of those sold. Only one was a new build. And then in the past 30 days, 87 have sold. 16 of those were new build. And looking again, the difference between the days on market, the average in the past 30 days was 45. In the past 7 days, it is now 18. The median was 13 in past 30 days, and it's now 5. So Noblesville, again, is also speeding up. Currently active in Noblesville, there is 95. 35 are new builds. So
do you have the high and low on Noblesville?
I do not.
Okay.
Trying to get all this information out because there's so much. But there's only 60 on the market anywhere, any price point. So I also want to say that as well. So 60 homes in the entire town of Noblesville in any price point. So that would just kind of lean the fact to 20, 30, 40, 50 buyers looking at a price point between 300 and 400. There may be 2 houses.
There better be some inventory coming on the market here in the next week, or they're going to be in trouble.
That's what sellers need to know. They need to get their houses on the market. So if they want to sell. So in Carmel, the amount of homes that were activated in the past 7 days were 37, 12 pended, 2 of those were new builds. Currently active, 131, but 45 of those are new builds. And what was really interesting to see in Carmel, lots of new builds were released in Carmel. So of all the homes that are currently active now, a lot of the new builds just hit the market. So some builders just really started to release a lot of, and again, those aren't even out of the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Sold 89 sold in the past 30 days. 19 of those were new builds. And looking again at the days on market, average was 43 in the past 30 days. This is very interesting in Carmel. The average days on market in the past 7 days was 9. So we went from 43 to 9. And then the median was 16 in the past 30 days is now 5. So Carmel is really sucking up the inventory quick.
What's the total again in Carmel right now? I do not want to include new builds.
If we take 131 minus 45.
Okay. I got you.
Do that math in my head.
So the bottom line is,
inventory's gone.
This is probably quick. In the next 2 to 3 weeks would probably be one of the highest times to get some of the premium dollars out of your property right now because of what's going to happen about another 4 or 5 weeks later when people are ready to sell. But I think right now, if you had a perfect home, would be the time to list it right now because you're probably going to get a better premium price along with before the interest rates could climb again.
And you don't have competition. Sorry to interrupt.
Right,
But
you're right. You don't have a competition.
So it's like list now, get the top dollar. You're going to get multiple offers if you're in a prime location. And
right.
Yeah.
And then, again, making sure that your list agent understands how to do this process because this is not an easy process to go through and leave a lot of money on the table or end up back on the market.
People just think you list the home and you're going to get it's all about timing, days, when to put it up.
The negotiations and everything. It's really important that those contracts that come in, there may be 5 or 6 or 10 of them, but really not all of them are equal. And the other things that protect the buyer and seller on both sides need to be understood by both agents. So that's just another thing. It's a whole nother show. But in Westfield, 36 hit the market. 12 of those pended. No new builds in Westfield, which we know they're very heavy.
Well, I know that, but I mean, thank God, right?
Right. Well, they're.
And what do they got? A total under on lots and construction in a whole different category, 100 and some.
Well, active in Westfield, this is 168 are active, but 97 are new build specs. Are
97.
So we are looking at about
71 actual homes.
Yes, in all price points.
Yeah.
And the other thing was really cool.
And some of those houses that you just talked about, they don't even have sticks on them yet. They don't have foundations on them. It's just a lot.
It's just mud. Yeah.
It's just mud. Right.
So, 97 of those. More
takes a year to build a house.
Well, that was what I was getting ready to say. In Westfield and Zionsville, I saw my first 2024 home hit the market.
Did you really?
Yep. So we're already getting towards 2024. Wow. 125 sold in the past 30 days. 70 were new builds. Next question I want to say is potentially could we talk to the mayor of Westfield? Because I was on the redistricting committee for Carmel 3 times. What are they doing with their schools there? How many of these new builds are being sold and sold and sold and sold, and it's the same size
that's
school?
That's a show for next year.
It's a whole different section. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I just curious about that. So average days on market in the past 30 days was 39, and median was 5. But actually, Westfield average was 51 and 10 in the past 7 days. So average for Westfield is kind of staying the same. So they're not speeding up as fast as the other towns. Last time, Zionsville, 17 hit the market. 7 of those pended. 2 were new builds. And then 45 are active currently. So they only have 45. And then 11 of those are new builds. So that's 34.
Right.
And 26 sold in the past 30 days. 3 were new builds. But looking at Zionsville, this is very interesting if you want to sell your house in Zionsville. In the past 30 days, the average days on market was 27.
Ooh, that's good.
That was past 30 days.
Yep, right.
And in the past 7 days, the average is 8. And the median was 8 in the past 30 days, and it's now 5.
And you're not getting a discount on a house in Zionsville.
No. So average days, 8, median 5. We have evened out now in Zionsville, saying basically they're selling as soon as they hit the market.
Yeah, I'd love to pull the stats on those in about 90 days after they all close and see what they listed for and what they sold for. because they're all going to be over.
Right. And sometimes I do the list to sale ratio, and I think that's going to be a very interesting
Yeah, we'll do that next week
situation.
on some of the houses.
So that gets into talking about the prices and people talking about potentially prices are going down. I don't think so.
Prices aren't going down. Justin, let's move over to you, and let's kick it off with, well, first you got something to say, Justin.
Yeah, I just saw a report by the National Association of Realtors on CNN that the average median home price right now is $363,000 nationwide. That's insane.
Right.
It's very high. But this is the first time in 131 months that we had a negative month per national numbers.
Per national,
so,
right. Doesn't mean we have it here.
Yeah,
A negative month in what?
in sales, like the price is going down.
Right. But
National.
National.
Yeah.
As you see by our numbers, this is not factual. It just really depends on where you're at. And
right. Well, hey, let's kick your stats off with, let's go Broad Ripple first, and then we'll go to Meridian Kessler.
So numbers are pretty slow this week. Broad Ripple had one new listing that pended, leaving 12 total on the market.
What was the price
right
of it?
now.
Do you have it?
I do not have the price of it.
So it's sold in a moment.
Yep, sold in less than 3 days. We have 4 pending at the average price at $333,000, and we had 10 closings last week, which is up quite a bit.
Sure. Got to get everything done.
$428,000, 40 days on the market. The median was 35, so really close.
Right.
And those prices were anywhere from 220 all the way up to 1.
Well, everything in Broad Ripple, every sign out there says sold, 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 sold.
It's
If you can
insane.
get the sold sign on it in time.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. Well, they all want to do that because that's part of the marketing, right?
Yep. But
So-
those prices were anywhere from 220 to 1.4. I know, sometimes we talk big numbers on the show, but we do work in every price point.
Absolutely, we do. I just did a scenario last week that people were kind of griping about, or 2 weeks ago, I was griping about Carmel doing a scenario. Right, everybody doesn't have a $500,000 or $700,000 home. I get what you're saying. You're right. We do scenarios everywhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, so it looks like Broad Ripple, somebody can really get some premium dollars out of their house right now. Let's go over to Meridian Kessler.
Meridian Kessler, we had nothing added this week, which leaves a total of 9 active listings, which is terribly low right now. We had 1 pin for $550,000 that was on the market for 12 days, and we had 5 closings at an average price of $557,000. Those prices started at anywhere from $219,000 all the way up to $1 million.
Yeah, we won't hit a zero next week on Meridian Kessler. You're going to see some houses pop up for sale.
Absolutely.
And here's the thing in Meridian Kessler, okay? If you had a perfect house of, let's say, $495,000 to $525,000, I could see that $525,000 house. I really could see it going for a lot more money.
Oh, absolutely.
And like you said, we'll see those in 30 days. We'll start to see these list to sale ratios.
You're going to see a 525 home. You could see it tap on the door easily at 575 to 600,000 because of no inventory.
No inventory.
All right. And right now, somebody's going to want today's rates versus in 30 to 60 days from now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Okay.
Next up, we have Bates Hendricks. We had 5 new listings, none of which pended, priced anywhere from $279 to $565.
That really surprises me.
Yep. 18 total. We had 3 pinned and we had 2 sale. Average price of $415, 16 days on the market for average and median. So those numbers are actually the same right now. And then lastly, Fountain Square, we had 2 new ones hit the market, 4 pended. All of them were on the market for over 27 days for the ones that pended. I thought it was kind of interesting. And then we had 3 closings, average price at $386,000. So
We
not
need
bad.
we need some inventory.
Yeah. I think with these low rates, though, I think a lot of people that
Low
have
rates?
these, well, I'm saying that have the existing
Yes, the
mortgages, the
mortgages.
2.75s.
Yeah, I mean, why are you going to dump a 2.75 to go to a 7.125 and blow your equity on that? But, as we say it, marry the house and date the rate. Even if you take a 30-year fix for 2 years, we are going to see some rate declines. And where the big refinance push is going to come. And when you are in the sevens and you get back to 5.875, that's enough to refinance with the numbers today.
At least 1% you want to do it.
Well, 1%, it depends on what the mortgage balance is. But you're going to see a refinance craze come all over the country, just not here. But, a lot of people aren't going to give a 2.75% rate up, take their $100,000 or $50,000 equity they've made in the last year and a half, 2 years, and go after a 7.125. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I just think a lot of people are going to turn into landlords. If you're sitting on an interest rate of like 2.75, 3%,
good,
it's
and
like,
it's
hey,
bad.
you can make that a rental. And it's like, why would I give up 2.75 when...
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
As long as their HOA allows
Yeah,
it.
As long as their HOA allows it. But then when they do that, you got to understand something. They got to go buy something at full price right now. Then they got to go do a higher interest rate. So I don't know. The people that need to list their homes right now, I get it. The person that's going to move to Florida, the person that's going to move to Arizona, or maybe they're going to get rid of their house in the Meridian Kessler area and say, hey, I'm going to buy a condo for a short time and feel out what the market is.
Yep.
Okay. I can understand that. But,
I don't think we're going to see. That's the problem with the inventory. If we look at the past 2 years, the problem with the inventory was that we had low inventory, and what caused that.
Mm-hmm.
What's causing it today is totally different, and the low inventory is going to continue. But also, what we're talking about right here is a major factor of if you don't have to move, like you just said, if you're going to move because you're relocating or whatever. But I think even families that are stuck in a house, if they've just had their third kid and they only have a 2-bedroom or
Trying to
something
make
like
it work
that,
right now.
they are going to make it work
Yep.
until this settles down, and that's going to make this inventory continue to stay low.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. A friend of mine sent me an article early this morning from Fortune magazine on real estate, and I'm not going to go over the whole article. I am going to touch pretty heavy on it next week, okay, because it just came out. Indianapolis saw a housing boom during the pandemic. However, it was quite a frenzy that overtook markets like in Austin and Phoenix. The one thing about Indianapolis, our property values have really sustained their actual list price. Okay, we are down less than 0.1% on declines in our real estate sales. Okay, so I'm going to go over this article from Fortune magazine that we'll post on next week's show of about what Indianapolis has done compared to like Phoenix and other markets. I mean, we are really in a good market for people to buy their first home. And, I don't want to touch on the rental market too much, but, you're right. You could take a 2.75% rate and really get some premium dollars because you almost have free money.
Yep.
All right. But I'm going to go over this article pretty in depth and talk with it, you guys, next week from Fortune magazine. And it really does talk about the market. And it's a very, very good article to go over. So homeowners and realtors hear this.
Well, and that's getting back to what he said in regards to looking at a lot of these reports keep coming out that the prices are dropping, Everybody has to keep in their mind that this is national information.
Well, that's right. And the funny thing about the Fortune magazine thing, and the reason she sent this to me, these 133 housing markets saw home prices decline in February, but 267 markets ticked higher, and we're really more on that side of the fence. Yep. Okay, so
well, that's great that somebody finally said that instead of just averaging and just saying overall doom and gloom.
Well, I have a private research analysis person that does this for me, that sends this to me, and we're really going to dig deep in this, and we're going to chew the fat on this next week because people got to learn it, understand it, if you're in the market, if you're going to sell. Okay, Justin, if somebody wants to get a hold of you to buy a home in Fishers, Shelly, we're not going to let you sell any homes in Fishers this week, okay? Okay. Justin, you're at Fishers.Real Estate. Tell them what company you're with and how they can contact you, please.
I'm with Keller Williams. Phone number is 317-507-5599, and also customcontainerbuilders.com.
Okay. And what's the name of your website?
Fishers.Real Estate. Okay. Not .com,
.real estate. And Shelly, if somebody want to get a hold of you, wait a minute. Where is Kyle Morris? Is he on spring break? Okay, we'll give him a promo. Hey, if anybody wants to buy a home off Kyle Morris up here in the Carmel area, get a hold of him, FC.Tucker in Carmel. And Shelly, how do they get a hold of you?
You can reach me on my cell phone, 317-201-2601. It's Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC.Tucker.
Okay. Hey, everybody, we'll talk to you next week, and have a great week.